one presentation of the Historical Society of Ottawa. Our speaker tonight is Andrew King. Andrew was born in Kingston. Well, we won't hold that against him, because he did move to Ottawa in 1991 when he enrolled at Carleton University, not to study history, as you might expect, but to join the industrial design program at Carleton U. It was at this time that, as an artist, Andrew started a weekly comic strip entitled Off the Wall, which ran in the Ottawa Citizen and eventually ran all over North America in newspapers. This led Andrew into the television animation program at Algonquin College. So what does all this have to do with Andrew's interest in Ottawa's past? Well, while making his comics for the Citizen, he also started writing articles for the Citizen on the odd and curious events in Ottawa's history that he found fascinating and he thought might fascinate others, and decided to write these for the Citizen. In 2019, he compiled some of these and published Rewind is his first book, which you can find at bookstores here in Ottawa. And a couple years later, he's most recently published Ottawa Rewind 2, More Curios and Mysteries. And that's what Andrew's theme is tonight, with What's Ottawa Hiding? Exploring the mysteries of our city's past. So, live from Manotick, please welcome Andrew King.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, everyone at the Historical Society of Ottawa. It's a great honor to be here tonight. I have to, I guess, apologize in advance because I've never done a Zoom, but I hope it goes smoothly. Lynn has been a great stage director, and I think we can do this. So, fingers crossed. I've got a little slideshow. And I'd also like to welcome everyone out there that I can't see, but I know has registered. Thank you to the 328 people that are tuning in for this live broadcast of Ottawa's Subterranean Secrets. So without any further ado, I'm just going to share my desktop screen. I made sure to get rid of any incriminating images on my desktop before we do this. So here we go. Let's see if this works. Okay. Share. And away we go. Okay. So this is the title screen, Historical Society of Ottawa presentation, Ottawa's Subterranean Secrets. And just to get confirmation from either Richard or Lynn, can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Fine.
Perfect. All right. So we're good to go. Let's move to slide 1 and also slide ourselves back 12,000 years ago when there was a glacial saltwater ocean above the Ottawa region called the Champlain Sea. So 12,000 years ago, you can see on this map the extent of this ancient sea that covered most of Eastern Ontario, Ottawa Valley, Montreal, all the way up to Quebec City. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is we're all tied into this somehow. After the glacial melt and the sea was in existence 12,000 years ago, it created a lot of geological formations in the Ottawa region. And
I'm watching Andrew King right.
Each color representing a different type of geological formation, whether it's like limestone, clay, granite, metamorphic rock. You can see there's a huge variety of different types of rocks in the region. And this, especially the pink stuff, if you can look above the Ottawa River there's a lot of pink in the Gatineau Hills, that area. That pink area is where a lot of caves have developed through ancient history. And those caves are, through time, have been used by the ancient people that were living in this region. And they used them not only as shelter, but also as caches. So these ancient caves, there's a number of them around the Luskville area. And the kind of nomadic traits of the St. Lawrence Iroquois who were traveling through the region would use these caves, as well as many others, to it was kind of like a a bank vault where they would take their most prized possession, not prized at the time, but they knew they could use them later on in time. And they would store them in these clay pots and hide them in caves. So on the return journey, they knew to go back and they'd have it filled with food or arrowhead, whatever helped them on their journey across the region. They hid them in these caves. So in the 1890s, Mr. Lusk, who owned some farmland around Luskville, stumbled upon these cache caves and recovered these amazingly fully intact 400 to 7-year-old clay pots, which are now at the Museum of History. Now, you think, okay, that's cool, but do we have any caves around here? Yes, we do. Now, this is an interesting little piece of history. It's called the Pulleys Cave. Now, this is something that was new to me. I had no idea about it. Around Nanny's Goat Hill, there were multiple reports back in the 1800s of a cave. So I'm sure many of your members and many Ottawa residents know about Pulleys Bridge, which is near the filtration plant, which is still there and still operable. So just around that Pulleys Bridge, there was a cave that was described to go about 150 feet beneath the, into Nanny Goat Hill. And they could hear falling water, but many of the kids that went in there got scared before they can fully explore it. And so I decided to research a little more, and some of the reports said it went right under Christ Church Cathedral on Spark Street, and they could hear the organ playing up above. So I looked into it more, and there, of course, are more descriptions of this cave. And it had a kind of an entrance at the Pulleys Bridge area, about 4 by 6 feet in dimensions. And these kids, these adventurous kids in the late 1800s, decided to go and explore what was inside this cave. Now, I'm not going to read the whole articles here, but these were substantiating the evidence that this cave existed. So if you look on the right-hand side, underneath the little title there, Pulleys Bridge, we came to the mouth of the cave. The cave was about 5 by 4 feet at the mouth. So these kids went into this cave and they found a large room that they described. And of course, these are kids, so we can't take this as the gospel, but pretty cool. These kids went in and found this 40 by 60 foot cavern with stalactites and stalagmites. And what happened to this? So taking this information, I've created this map through the beauty of Google Maps. This is an aerial view of the area that was described in the 1800s where this Pulleys Cave would have been located. The red dot on the bottom left of the screen would have been the entrance they described as being 4 to 5 feet. And then the red line is the direction the cave would have gone. And on the top right, you'll see Christ Church Cathedral. Now, what's interesting in these newspaper descriptions, they could hear the sound of running water. Now, that's interesting because you'll see almost halfway down the line, there's a circle there. And this is where I believe in a previous Ottawa Citizen article was where the Pure Spring ginger ale spring was. Now, this is going back to the 20s when the founder of Pure Spring actually bottled his soda water and later ginger ale from an actual spring at Nanny Goat Hill, which I think is located where that red circle is, and coincidentally is very near this cave. So now we're gonna go to a more 3D view of where the cave would have existed. On the bottom right, you'll see the Pulleys Bridge area where the filtration plant is. And now I did a little ghosting of a sketch to show the extent of the cave as described through these newspaper articles. So this cave was described to have a tunnel going about 150 feet beneath Spark Street into a 40 by 60 foot cavern underneath Christ Church Cathedral. Now, this is pretty amazing stuff, and whatever happened to it? I've lived here 30 years, and I've never heard of this. No one's ever described it. So I want to know if it still exists. So again, here is a reverse ghosting showing where that cave would be. Now, I could go back to an aerial view in 1928, and you can see that area is significantly different. We've got the old Wellington Street going right down the center, and that red dot represents where the entrance to the cave would have been. Fast forward to 1991, you can see a very kind of remodeling of that whole area, especially the expropriation of LeBreton Flats off to the left. And you can see where the blue circle is, that's where the entrance to this cave would have been, and it's covered in trees. So now we switch to 2006. Uh-oh, NCC. Hello, they've remodeled this whole area, and you can see the cave entrance would have either been probably walled up, covered, concealed, or simply blasted and inaccessible. But does it still exist? I'm unsure of that. Oh, sorry. I don't know why it's not going ahead. Hang on. Sorry, guys. Here is what it looks like today. The red dot will indicate where the entrance to the cave is. And the red line shows the direction.
Suggested here, but yeah, I wonder if there would be an access from the basement to the church. Might be interesting to contact somebody at Christ Church. It's been there for a while.
Yeah,
if they know anything about it from that end.
I think that's a great idea. There's probably an access tunnel to this cave, and that church is very old. I'm not, I don't have the exact date, but I believe it was mid to late 1800s. So if this cave was being explored in the late 1800s, that church was right above it. I'm pretty sure they knew about it and probably have access to it. So there's another adventure for Ottawa Rewind. Okay, we're going to move on to tunnels now. Oh, and by the way, before we move on, if anyone has info on Pulleys Cave, please talk about the tunnel underneath the Byward Market. Now, this is particularly interesting. This was built in the 1950s for the department store before the Rideau Center was there, called Freeman's. And Freeman's was where they is today, Hudson's Bay Company. And they built a special tunnel underneath the Byward Market to their parking garage, which was designed for shoppers to Freeman's. And in 1959, it opened. I always thought this was a very Guggenheim kind of looking parking garage, very unique, that does not fit the usual architecture of the Byward Market, but it's very mid-century modern in its appearance. And it had a tunnel that went from this parking garage underneath George Street over to Freeman's department store. And again, we have the glitch. Darn it. Anyway, we'll talk about it. Maybe it'll move on in a bit. So Freeman's paid for this tunnel to be dug to access their parking garage. And much like the 1950s, 60s kind of car culture oriented shopping experience, you would go into the parking garage, get out of your car, go into a tunnel, and enter the department store without having to endure the grueling nature of Ottawa's winters. And that tunnel existed up until, I believe, the 2000s. Sorry, it's not anything again.
In the meantime, while you're checking things out, a couple of people have commented more about the mystery. Keep going there, Andrew, doing what you're.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone suggested that there is a development at Cathedral, like a big condo development. And
That
someone
is true.
suggested that there might be an engineering report that they would have had to have done when they sunk their underground garages. And someone else mentioned that Christchurch has added a crypt in recent years. So I'm just thinking, if in the future, if you're ever looking at Ottawa Rewind 3, it looks like you got some investigative reporting to do.
Yes, that's great info.
There's
That's
a couple of clues there as to.
Yep. I do recall the church. I don't even, is it still, I guess it's still a church, but they tore down one section of it and the condos went up. So if it's still an active church, maybe we should pay a visit on a Sunday and accidentally go to the basement. Okay, back to the Byward Tunnel. Here's a map showing George Street, the parking garage on the top, and the direction of the tunnel that goes over to Freeman's, which is now the Hudson, excuse me, Hudson Company. Now, I thought it was so cool back in the 90s. I filmed a short kind of James Bond chase scene down there, and I wish I had known they were going to seal it up, because these are the only photos I could find that show how cool it was in all its mid-century modern glory. You can see they use subway tiles on one side of the wall, and on the other side were these kind of Mondrian art installation, acrylic colored panels in a very classic late 50s, early 60s style, which is so unique. And I hope they have not wrecked it or destroyed it, because this is very, very intact mid-century modern architecture surviving in Ottawa, if it's still there. And again, here's another view of that tunnel. This is how the top leaving Hudson's Bay, going through the tunnel to the parking garage. This is what you would have seen. And on the bottom left, that is the entrance if you're in the basement of the bay, looking towards the tunnel. But I believe, I haven't been there in a few months, they've kind of cordoned it off. They put up a partition so no one can see it, but it's there, it exists. And unfortunately, they painted over the mid-century modern panels on the right side of the wall. Anyway, so there's one tunnel. Now, we're gonna move on, and maybe my computer will now explode, because we're gonna talk about something, and I'm gonna give a disclaimer here. Everything I'm talking about is public domain. I found this through my research. It's accessible to all the public. So if anyone who is listening thinking this is a security threat and I'm exposing, this is all public information for those that I know are listening. And if my computer explodes, we'll know why. Here we go. The Parliament Hill tunnels. The mighty Parliament buildings. They are the crown jewel of the nation's capital and have been sitting here on Parliament Hill for quite some time. And in that time, I have had many theories that there are a network of tunnels beneath Parliament Hill. And no matter how much I searched, how many times the RCMP told me to get out of there, I believe I've now uncovered a network of tunnels beneath Parliament Hill. And before we get into that, what led me to it was this. This is the ongoing, or probably completed by now, excavation into the solid bedrock of Parliament Hill. You'll see here, they're digging down approximately 4 stories into the limestone for what they are saying are new committee rooms. So just to give you a sense of scale here, I superimposed the Defen bunker, which was the Cold War bunker out in Carp, and I superimposed it there in the corner, and that is the entire Defen bunker inside of this excavation. And you can see how big this excavation is. You could fit probably, I would say, 6 Defen bunkers in what they're doing here. Very, very curious. Here's some more photos of the committee rooms that they're building beneath Parliament Hill. Another shot showing the excavation and the gigantic scale of this operation. Now, you'll notice in the photo on the top, there are these tunnels, and that got me thinking, if they're digging down here 4 stories for these giant committee rooms, if there were any tunnels previously from the 1860 construction onward, they'd be digging into those tunnels. So then I started poking around the Parliament buildings, and there are these very curious doorways. This is a view from the Chateau Laurier, looking west, and along the canal, you'll see a doorway there. And upon further inspection, there is a swipe card access. Interesting, to say the least. So I started looking into the, they call it a rehabilitation of Parliament Hill. And if they're doing something of that scale, they would have to do a geotechnical kind of analysis for this project. So I found this PDF document from Stantec. And sure enough, if you go through this very long document, excuse me, you'll see a mention of historic Euro-Canadian ventilation tunnels. And that got my curiosity going. So I researched a bit further, and it turns, oh, and there, the computer has failed. Please bear with me. This might be a good time to get a drink and some pop.
Yeah. Well, someone in the meantime, the photographs that you were just showing, someone was asking them, is that by the West Block or the East Block? That dig photographs you were showing.
That is the West Block. That is the West Block. Okay. Sorry, we're gonna go back here. So here it is. This document shows in red the network of tunnels that are beneath Parliament Hill. So you'll see one going diagonally right across the front lawn, and that is the tunnel with the doorway at the canal that has the swipe card access. So that tunnel, look at the length of that thing. It goes all the way from the canal over to the West Block, connects with another tunnel system that goes in the center block, where there's more tunnels connecting each of the blocks. Now you'll see at the Library of Parliament, there's also some tunnels that go into the cliff face of Parliament Hill going straight north. And on the west side, where that diagonal meets up with another network of tunnels, those tunnels go past West Block and probably over to, what's over there? There's another building. I forget the name of it. But yeah, there is a massive tunnel system underneath Parliament Hill. And I find this very interesting because I had no idea it existed. And I'm sure all our friends that work at Parliament Hill know all about it, and about the Coke machine that still dispenses glass Coke bottles. But that's for another time. That's a story. We're going to move on now to a hidden vault. This story I featured on Ottawa Rewind, but we're going to take another look at it. This again is near Parliament Hill. Back in 1876, our friend Thomas Fuller, who designed the Parliament buildings, also designed the Ottawa Central Post Office. Now, there's a red arrow here that indicates access doors to a vault at the Central Post Office. Here's a great photo from the 30s showing the central post office. It had a fire and they rebuilt and added another level to it. And that photo is taken from the Chateau Laurier. So I went to the 1901 fire insurance plans, and sure enough, you can see here the red circle, vaults under street, brick arched ceilings, stone terracotta walls, concrete floors. So there are vaults that were under the post office at the canal. Obviously, it was a place where they had valuables for safekeeping that arrived at the post office, I'm guessing by a boat on the canal, either from Montreal or Kingston. Now, what happened to that vault? Sorry, it's jammed again. Okay, we're just gonna take a pause. I'm gonna get a refresher on my beverage.
Andrew, do you have any other windows open on your desktop?
I do
that might
not.
be?
No, I made sure it was completely clean.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, oh, here we go, we're back. Ali, do you mind pouring me another drink? Thanks. So now we're here at the vaults in another photograph. This is obviously before the 1930s. They paved over it at that time and covered over the vaults. Here's showing the paved over section of the post office. Circles indicate where the vaults would have existed. Now that post office was demolished in 1938, thank you. Was demolished in 1938 to make room for the war memorial. So you can see the red circle indicates where those vaults would be. It looks like they weren't destroyed. And so what I did was take the fire insurance plan map and overlaid it on the current aerial view of that area. And in the orange block on the bottom slide there, you can see the location of that vault where it would exist today. So does that vault still exist? Well, that's a great mysterious question, and I can't answer it because I can't find access into it. I can't find any info on it other than the fact there is this steel door. And if you go down there to where the vaults would be, you'll see on the top image there is a steel door open. And I have been told that vault still exists and it's used by government officials for ceremonial duties and whatnot. So if any of our listeners or members of the Historical Society can confirm or deny that the 1800s post office vaults still exist, I would love to know that. Moving on, this is an interesting and probably one of my favorite Ottawa stories. It's the Lost Beer Train Tunnel. Now, this story first came to my attention and I started researching it and I'm like, what? Beer train? How, what? So being curious, I wanted to know, why would there be a train full of beer? Well, it turns out there was a brewery near LeBreton Flats. It was the Bradings Brewery, which later became Carling O'Keefe Brewery. And this image shows the brewery where the red arrow is pointing to and a warehouse where the yellow arrow is pointing to. This is a photo taken probably around the Tom Brown Arena area where the Roundhouse was. And this is a view looking east. You can see the Parliament buildings. Quite a different scene back in the day. Look at that beautiful steam locomotive. Just a whole different scene back in the day. So here's a photo from the 1980s that shows where a warehouse would have been for this brewery. Now, this was demolished at some point in the, I will say, late 80s. If it existed in the 80s, it disappears from the aerial maps sometime around that time. But in 1988, this is a great article by Ian McLeod at the Ottawa Citizen, and a City of Ottawa worker fell into a sinkhole, or I guess investigated a sinkhole, and said he saw a train in a tunnel. And this article like blew my mind when I first read it, and then I never heard anything else about it. It was like, well, let's move on, done. And I, whoa, there is a train with beer underneath LeBreton Flats, and we're just not going to talk about it? Not on my watch. Here we go. This is the original warehouse outlined in red. You'll see that's Albert Street. So that is where the warehouse would have been located, and that is where this beer train tunnel should be located beneath. So again, I found the fire insurance maps and superimposed the warehouse. You can see how large it was, and it went parallel to Albert Street for almost, I would say, a couple blocks there. That's Preston Street. That comes up right in the middle of it. Now, I found another fire insurance map, and it shows the O'Keefe Brewing Company. Now, if you follow the point of this arrow, it says tunnel. Huh, interesting. Okay, so putting together all this information, we can now locate where it would have been. So this is just my rough kind of analysis of this data from the maps and the Ottawa Citizen article showing and laying out where everything would be. And this is where the cross tunnel would cross Albert Street over to the main tunnel. Now, what's interesting, at the time, I was writing a column for the Ottawa Citizen, and I knew about this, and I knew they were doing construction on Albert Street. And I told my editor, Keith, Keith, I guarantee you they're going to break into the tunnel. They're just going to dig. They're going to dig right through this tunnel. And I should also mention, I contacted the City of Ottawa, this Museum of Science and Technology. I laid out all this information and told them, you have this train tunnel, here's where it is exactly. Showed them this presentation. They thanked me, never heard back. And I'm like, Keith, they're going to break into this tunnel when they dig up Albert Street, and you need to expose it, because I guarantee you the port was pretend it happened. And this just shows the people that I warned. And then sure enough, in the summer of 2014, oh, look at that. They broke through into the tunnel underneath Albert Street. So I was on vacation at the time, and somebody actually alerted me to this. I thanked that person, and I called up Keith, and I'm like, Keith, get your guys down there and record this, because this will probably be our only chance to record this piece of very fascinating history. And so they took these photos. This is a photo inside the beer tunnel. This is the cross tunnel that goes over to the main tunnel. It looks flooded here. And then this would be the entrance to the main tunnel that was obviously bricked up from the other side of the tunnel, because you can see the messy masonry. I don't know if a mason would hastily do that and not do a clean job unless they were doing it from the other side of the tunnel. Anyway, so this confirms the tunnel does exist. It's there. And so I put together a sketch to show how the tunnel would look. If you look here on the left, that was the entrance of the tunnel into the brewery. We go across that cross tunnel. There's where they broke through on the Albert Street construction. There's the bricked up entrance. And then there's the main tunnel that ran the length of the warehouse. And what supposedly is down there is a small gauge electric train, probably 1940s vintage, that's still down there. Now, here again, I ghosted in where that tunnel exists. I have since chatted with Toby at the NCC. NCC owns the land. And I said, guys, like, here it is. You got to do something cool with this. It's unfortunate. It's just being hidden away and no one really knows it's there. But the 320 people listening, there is a tunnel under LeBreton Flats, and hopefully someday it's open to the public and you get to see it. This is just a stock image I found online of what the train probably looks like. It's an electric locomotive train used in mines. It's electric because you don't want fumes, exhaust in a tunnel, and that's still down there. Okay, that concludes our talk. I want to thank everyone for joining me. Sorry about the technical glitches. I had a great time. I hope you enjoyed the talk, and I think we're going to open it up to questions.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Yeah, don't worry about the glitches. Two reasons I say don't worry about those. We found in the past that pretty much all our shows have had some kind of glitches. I think it adds to the character of our presentations. And the other thing is we may have lost, Andrew, about 2 minutes in glitches, but I'll bet we've saved like hours. The fact that you're a good graphic designer and that you're actually able to, let me start my video, you're actually able to do graphic images of these things. It tells so much. It makes the story so much easier to understand. So thanks for that. I think that helps.
Oh, thanks, Richard. The old adage, a picture says 1,000 words.
Yeah, and I think that, yeah, that more than made up for the lost time. We're getting some questions now.
Okay.
Well, actually, most of them seem to be comments here. I'm trying to go through them now. There is also some dynamited caves along Fairmont and Hindenburg near Wellington, although that's more recent stuff. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I have not.
So cool. Thanks so much. I know there's a couple. I'm still trying to go through them here. Regarding the tunnels under the War Museum, we've had a couple people. Craig Searle noticed that there are tunnels and vaults there, and David Jeans has commented that they're still used by the ceremonial guard. Okay. Those are the changing of the centuries every hour. Okay. So yeah, it looks like, yeah, those vaults may still be there. Cool. I'm trying to find, and the underwater caves, there's underwater caves at the Devil's Hole at Chaudière, 2 kilometers to near the Museum of History in Ottawa. So it looks like there might be more investigating for you to do in the future. I do
actually know about those. Yeah, I think those are natural caves from the Chaudière Falls, but I don't think they're accessible due to their dangerous, like the falls. So I stay away from that.
Yeah. How did you find out about these? I've been doing my own research for a book I'm eventually going to get on Ottawa, and I've never even heard of these tunnels. So did you know about these and do some investigation, or did you just stumble across these or hear it from people, rumors and things?
It was a mix of both. So Pulleys Cave was a completely new discovery, I guess. It's amazing when you're doing research on one topic, you go on a million tangents because you come across something else that's also fascinating. You're looking up, like I think I was researching Pure Spring ginger ale and where the spring was located. And that's when I found out about Pulleys Cave. And what? There's this cave that stretches like more than 100 feet underneath Spark Street. Anyway, it took me on a tangent. So I would say it's a mix of accidental research and sometimes very keen readers will send in tips. But yeah, it's just mostly accidental research.
Yeah, someone just mentioned here, I can totally relate to researching and going off on tangents. That's something that seems to happen a lot. But the more tangents you go on, it looks like we might eventually have an Ottawa Rewind 3 out of this. Are you still interested in doing a third volume at some point if you find more investigation, or you got so many other things on the go?
Yeah, So Ottawa Rewind is a blog, and I will always update my blog. It's a personal hobby. It's a great escape after a day of work or painting in the studio. And so I'll always update my blog. I'm not sure about a third book. That's out of my hands. That's through a publisher, and I should probably plug the books. Ottawa Press and Publishing is publishing Ottawa Rewind 1 and 2, which is available at bookstores. Excuse me. I'm not sure about Ottawa Rewind 3, but I will continue out of my own interest to post Ottawa Rewind blog.
And just
website.
to read that, I noticed something here. You've got ottawarewind.com. That's the blog, isn't it?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just for anyone that's interested in the blog, it's all one word, Ottawa Rewind, and then .com. But while we're at it, if anyone's interested, because you're also an artist as well as an historian, and people might be interested in checking out, again, all one word, AndrewKingStudio.com. AndrewKingStudio.com. Actually, you want to tell, we got a minute here. You want to tell us a little bit about that website? Because we're historians here, but we're interested in your artwork too. If you're okay with that.
Yeah, sure. My artwork is, knock on wood, I've been doing for over 10 years. And as you mentioned earlier, I worked as a cartoonist for newspapers, but also television. And it was the most fun I've ever had. You're working with like-minded individuals, creating a TV show, and it was the most fun I've ever had. And but it was very cyclical. So the work would be fast and furious, and then you'd be out of work for months. And in that downtime, I picked up painting, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to try painting for a year. And here I am 10 years later, and Ottawa is has a great appreciation for local artists, and we are fortunate to have the support of local art. So I love it. I love that Ottawa buys our art. So keep up the great work, Ottawa.
Yeah, and historians are pretty friendly too, because I noticed here you've got someone says that there are pretty cool penstock tunnels underneath the Chaudière Islands that I've paddled into, and he suggests connect with me. This is John Savage, and I can bring you there. Bring beaver lives there and vegetables. So it looks like someone's inviting you to check the penstocks at Chaudière Island. It might be a little bit dangerous. Says,
yeah, cool. And I do know about many caves. I've been in them myself, but they are dangerous. I do not like claustrophobia or heights, and caves, I guess, aren't high, but man, there are some tight spaces, and they freak me out. So I don't know if I want to go spelunking into these places.
Yeah, especially
but thank you for the kind offer of that.
Yeah, especially penstocks on the Ottawa, that would be a little bit dangerous. Yeah. Apparently, the Parliament O-Train underground station has a secret level M that you can see on the elevator ride down. Some folks believe it connects to the new Parliament bunker committee rooms. Anything about the O-Train at the Parliament station downtown? That might be fairly new.
Yeah, that is a great observation, because now that we know there is a system of tunnels beneath Parliament Hill, no doubt there is some access to the O-Train tunnel, which goes right by the Parliament buildings. And I'm actually kind of curious if Pulleys Cave is, because the O-Train enters just at Pulleys almost, and I wonder if they use the existing cave tunnel and it's now destroyed or part of the O-Train. That is something I would love to know.
Yeah, another one, David Jean says, another really interesting tunnel would be the service tunnel under Wellington Street, east from the Cliff steam power plant to the west of Parliament Hill and Supreme Court. So a lot of people seem to know what some of these tunnels are. And of course, you have the Chateau Laurier tunnel to the old.
Yeah, that one's very well known. That image I shared earlier, the slide that showed the red tunnels under Parliament, it did show a tunnel going off to the west, And I'm pretty sure that goes all the way to the Supreme Court and the steam plant, the heating plant.
Okay, and we have some Mary Cox here, who looks like she's got some information on Pulleys Tunnel. I will email Andrew. So it looks like you're going to get more
Oh, great.
information on
That's
Pulleys
awesome.
Tunnel for you.
Okay.
Oh yeah, here's something here. Someone has sent a connection, Sasha Guerra. For more info on the Parliament Station Level M, if you can get onto the chat, because it's a long email.
Sorry, I'm seeing them up there.
Much better. And I think I'll give a shout out to, I think it was Leslie Anderson, the one who suggested that we all stop our videos. I think that helped. You could see most of the.
Yeah, it did. It went quite smoothly after that. Again, I know nothing about Zoom, but I'm assuming that maybe the more people are on it, the more log jammed it gets, and it just hampers everything. But,
yeah, and I'm bringing that up now because I think in the future, Lynn, we may suggest not only that everyone mute themselves, but maybe in the future, it looks like maybe a good idea to have everyone cut their video as well, because we don't need to see everyone's smiling face. So we're getting better all the time. Andrew, thanks for an amazing talk and 2 great books that I've read. I really enjoyed them, and I really appreciate you taking some time. I can see some people who do have the video on. They are clapping and applauding. So thanks so much. I've only got, just one final announcement there, because next week, or not next week, March the 31st, so that's 3 weeks from now, at 7 p.m., our next speaker will be Charlotte Gray, author of Murdered Midas, a millionaire, his gold mine, and a strange death on an island paradise. So that sounds like it will be interesting. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I hope everyone enjoyed themselves and they certainly learned something, and we'll see all of you again on March 31st. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a great pleasure. Take care.